Greetings. I wanted to do a brief response to the satirical video, How to Defeat Calvinism, and the dialogue that ensued in the comment section. I want to take a historical approach to the issue, and we've got a lot of ground to cover, but I wanted to show that all of the early Orthodox pre-Nicene Christians universally believed that God gave mankind free will to choose between good and evil, and they believed this in opposition to the Gnostic heretics who taught the doctrines of total depravity and arbitrary or absolute predestination. First, I'd like to start with a quotation from the Bible, just one of a plethora, really. This one is Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 19 through 20. I summon heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I offer you the choice of life or death, blessing or curse. Choose life, and then you and your descendants will live. Now, there's many other examples from the scriptures, of course, but I want to focus primarily on what the early Christians believed so that there's no doubt. So I'm not cherry-picking. This is the whole of the pre-Nicene church. All these quotations are going to be taken from a dictionary of early Christian beliefs edited by David W. Berceau. I'm doing that for the sake of brevity, as I don't want to go through all of those volumes back there one by one. These can all be found in the Ante-Nicene Fathers 10-volume set, which is fully transcribed on the internet. And I'll list the references for those in the description of this video. So let's start with Justin Martyr, who wrote in circa 160. Lest some suppose, from what has been said by us, that we say that whatever occurs happens by fatal necessity, because it is foretold as known beforehand, this too we explain. We have learned from the prophets, and we hold it to be true, that punishments, chastisements, and good rewards are rendered according to the merit of each man's actions. Now if this is not so, but all things happen by fate, then neither is anything at all in our power. For if it is predetermined that this man will be good, and this other man will be evil, neither is the first one meritorious, nor the latter man to be blamed. And again, unless the human race has the power of avoiding evil and choosing good by free choice, they are not accountable for their actions. This next quotation is from Tatian, wrote about the same time, around circa 160. Each of these two orders of creatures, and he's talking about men and angels, was made free to act as it pleased. They did not have the nature of good, which again is with God alone. However, it is brought to perfection in men through their freedom of choice. In this manner, the bad man can be justly punished, having become depraved through his own fault. Likewise, the just man can be deservedly punished or praised for his virtuous deeds, since in the exercise of his free choice, he refrained from transgressing the will of God. And Tatian continues, and the power of the Logos has in itself a faculty to foresee future events. He foretold from time to time the issues of things to come, not as fated, but as taking place by the choice of free agents. This next one is from Melito, dated around circa 170. There is, therefore, nothing to hinder you from changing your evil manner of life, because you are a free man. This next one is from Theophilus, also around circa 180. If, on the other hand, he would turn to the things of death, disobeying God, he would himself be the cause of death to himself. For God made man free, and with power of himself. And I'm going to give a couple from Irenaeus, because there's just a lot. And let's see, we'll start with the one that he has in reference to the Marcionites, which are essentially a Gnostic sect. And he characterizes them thusly. The Marcionites say, but God hardened the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants. Now those who allege such difficulties do not read in the Gospel the passage where the Lord replied to the disciples, When they asked him, "Why do you speak in parables?" he replied, "Because it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. However, I speak to them in parables, so that seeing they may not see, and hearing they may not hear." And he continues, "So God knows the number of those who will not believe, since he foreknows all things. So he has given them over to unbelief, and turned his face away from men and his character, leaving them in the darkness that they have chosen for themselves." So what is baffling if he gave Pharaoh and those who were with him over to their unbelief? For they would never have believed. Another example from Irenaeus, that previous one is touching on a verse that today Calvinists love to use in support of their arguments, but here's another choice one. "Those who work it will receive glory and honor, because they have done that which is good when they had it in their power not to do it. But those who do not do it will receive the just judgment of God, because they did not work good when they had it in their power to do so. But if some have been made by nature bad and others good, these later would not be deserving of the praise for being good, for they were created that way. Nor would the former be reprehensible, for that is how they were made. However, all men are of the same nature. They are all able to hold fast and to do that which is good. On the other hand, they have the power to cast good away from them and not to do it. For that reason, some justly receive praise." And one more from Irenaeus. "If then it were not in our power to do or not do these things, what reason did the apostle have, and much more the Lord himself, to give us counsel to do some things and to abstain from others? But because man is possessed of free will from the beginning, and God is possessed of free will in whose likeness man was created, advice is always given to him to hold fast to the good, which is done through obedience to God. God has preserved the will of man free and under his own control. That is not merely in works, but also in faith." And I've got time for a few more. Let's go on to Clement of Alexandria. This is circa 195 that he wrote. He said, "We have heard by the scriptures that self-determining choice and refusal have been given by the Lord to men. Therefore, we rest in the infallible criterion of faith, manifesting a willing spirit, since we have chosen life." And again from Clement, "To obey or not is in our power, provided we do not have the excuse of ignorance." Here's one from Tertullian. He wrote this one in circa 207. "I find, then, that man was constituted free by God. He was master of his own will and power." Tertullian continues, "For a law would not be imposed upon one who did not have it in his power to render that obedience which is due to law. Nor again would the penalty of death be threatened against sin if a contempt of the law were impossible to man in the liberty of his will." And he continues and concludes, "Man is free with a will either for obedience or resistance." Okay, here's one from Bardesanes. This is dated circa 222. "On the contrary, men are not governed like," he's talking about plants and animals in this section, and he continues, "in matters pertaining to their minds, they do whatever they choose, as those who are free, endowed with power, and in the likeness of God." And I've got a whole slew of quotations that I could give from Origen, really. But I think we've already established that previously in the comments on the video to which I'm responding. So let me go to Hippolytus. "Christ passed through every stage in life in order that he himself could serve as a law for persons of every age, and that by being present among us, he could demonstrate his own manhood in a model for all men. Furthermore, through himself, he could prove that God made nothing evil, and that man possesses the capacity of self-determination, for man is able to both will and not to will, he is endowed with power to do both. And I've got more examples yet from various others, and we're out of time. But if necessary, I can always make an additional video if everyone would like to see more. Please feel free to post your comments and questions, and let the dialogue continue.